water conduit, the pipe improvement costs were not included. Now the cost estimates are up to 650, or actually up to 850, up to $1.2 billion. These are figures from the work session. If the decision makers had known the cost would be double or potentially triple the original estimates, would they have made these decisions? This is a quote from the Cascade Policy Institute that came out with a report on this last month. Again, if the decision makers had known the cost would be double or potentially triple, would they have made the this different decision?
Thank you.
Is it possible, one more quote,
No, your time is up.
this is intentional malfeasance by the
Hey,
bureaucracy?
your time is up, but I have a question for you. Because you are a very active participant in these kinds of issues. And I want to give you an opportunity to answer one very simple question. We are discussing whether we need to have access to pipe. We'll be discussing alternatives to the technology. We're going to be having a robust conversation about this. Do you acknowledge that we are required to treat our water for cryptosporidium?
Yes.
Thank you.
Can I answer the question you asked?
No, I'm sorry.
The next three, please.
Next three. Elizabeth Leathers and Pat Peter.
Good afternoon. Thank you for your patience. Would you like to start?
Are there other people showing up?
Please go ahead.
Okay, my name's Jeff Knapp. I live in the general area out there. I am opposed to the purchase of this property, this $800,000 house. I must say I am sadly astonished that a bureau with such a tarnished reputation for inappropriate expenditures and wild cost overruns would think that paying $800,000 for a mansion is an appropriate job site office would be a swell idea. It's no wonder that the price of the filtration fiasco they are deceptively pushing at the city council and ratepayers has already doubled. Has the Water Bureau forgotten the Waterhouse debacle that cost over $900,000 or the $10 million settlement from 2017? The city council has a responsibility to the ratepayers to stop this sale and revisit the now doubled cost of the filtration fiasco in light of astounding changes in the costs. The facts just do not support this filtration effort, and at the moment the purchase of this property, which is still subject to the land use rules, seems to sort of develop its own needs for entry ad hoc, and I stand ardently opposed. And there are several facts I'm wondering if the city council is aware of. They have issued the mandated treatment of cryptosporidium has grown off into a Trojan horse of sorts for the Water Bureau to get a list of wants that they want out of this. The Water Bureau has listed, well, filtration is going to help us solve landslides, but the U.S. Forest Service did a mapping study of the watershed and found that less than 2% of the watershed is highly susceptible to landslides. And I'm not sure if the Commission is aware of its own, the Portland Water Bureau's geotechnical engineer, who has reported that the pipelines between headwaters and Powell Butte are one of the more resilient parts of the system, but it is one of the more resilient parts of the system. The big infrastructure problem is in the city.
Hi, I'm Linda Leathers, and I just have a couple of quotes for your own favor, but I want to state them. This is from the Water Bureau memo dated August 31st, 2018, with the title Filtration Plant Key Decisions and Processes, and I quote, "Develop capital and operating costs so that decision makers can fairly evaluate the alternatives," unquote. And quote, "The top three community values are cost, public health, water quality, and resilience," unquote. And that is from the Water Bureau Consultant FDR, February 21st, 2018.
Thank you.
That was very succinct testimony, thank you.
Hello, my name is Pat Meyer, and I am a landowner on a property on Carpenter Lane. I want to thank you for Listening to our testimony, I am disappointed, to say the least, that Mayor Wheeler is not here. I have 3 items that I would like to address. You have a paper there, so I'm not great at public speaking, so I'm going to read if you don't mind. One is the location. I am on record as saying that I oppose the purchase of this property due to the bigger picture of placing this plant on the property there. Location. It is no surprise that the rural landowners and residents of Carpenter Lane would oppose the placement of a mega industrial plant on farmed property, which is currently what the property is used for. I'll make no pretense for our concern for the perpetual negative impacts that will be on our community. As agricultural land, it tends to get lost in the discussion that the real value of land there is agriculturally zoned and operated as such. Currently in the U.S., we lose 3 acres of agricultural land a minute. That's farmland to commercial and industrial uses. That's 1.5 million acres a year. That precious loss not only affects the landscape and the lifestyles of those in the area, but of the natural habitats of the wildlife. As agricultural land, it is an immensely valuable in natural storing and purification of the water and sequencing of carbon and greenhouse gases through plant farming. As Oregonians, we have a rich history of understanding the need and value of our natural landscape, and I urge you to consider the cost ramifications of allowing this site to become an industrial mega plant.
Thank you for your testimony. I actually have some good news on the cost and for the ratepayers as well. Yesterday we were invited to apply for a Water Infrastructure Finance and Innovation Act loan. It's called the WIFIA loan. The Environmental Protection Agency manages it. So we hope, we've been invited to apply. If we get the loan, it would be a low interest loan that would significantly reduce the cost to the ratepayers. We won't know whether we get that till next year.
Can I reply to that?
Sure.
A loan is still a loan.
Right.
You still have to pay it back.
It's a low interest loan that gets paid back over a long period.
Most people that have budgets still have to qualify and have to figure out a way to pay it back.
Right.
It is the middle class that will be burdened with this.
Thank you. Please.
The last 2 are Paul Willis and Floyd Jones.
Looks like you have the last word, Floyd. Welcome.
Floyd Jones, and as those here know, I'm a founding member of Friends of the Reservoirs. I'm also on the board of directors of Water Accountability and Trust and Reform. I'm speaking for myself today, and I of course oppose this based on the bigger picture, but I wrote to you all back in July of 2017 prior to your August decision, and I said then, how can a rushed risk probability and cost analysis be trusted? And of course, now we see it cannot. And that was the problem then, and that's the problem now as we rushed through this. There was outrage at your last work session over the Water Bureau failing to tell you about these big pipe costs. Well, why wasn't there outrage as well over their slipping in there? We're not just going to be building a chemical adding filtration plant to treat non-infectious cryptosporidium, but they said, oh, we'll also add ozone. That was one of your alternatives back in 2017. UV radiation, ozone, chlorine dioxide, or chemical filtration. So now they have you building 2 plants. We have conduits running to Lusted Hill. Of course, you know that we don't support building any treatment plant at all because we don't have infectious cryptosporidium. We would not ever have it barring gross malfeasance on the part of the Water Bureau because we're not going to let humans or domesticated animals into the watershed. We do need to revisit this entire decision. And other folks remarks have made some of the other points that, these costs are unaffordable right now for the middle class. Yes, there's a great low-income program. We've had that all along. We have the best low-income program. That doesn't help the middle class pay for these water bills. And, if we had a choice of saying how were we going to comply with this, I think we should still go back and seek a waiver, but nonetheless, chlorine dioxide, the cheapest option, no additional unwanted chemicals. Thank you.
Thank you. That's all signed up, I believe. So thank you to everybody who's come today, and I'm truly sorry about the impact on your community. And I have to keep in mind that this project is designed to provide safe and abundant water for 1 million people for many generations to come, and that's what's at stake here. So this is the first reading of a non-emergency ordinance. It moves to second reading. Next item, please, Carla.
Maggie. Authorize the Director of the Bureau of Environmental Services to execute lease documents for space in Pioneer Tower necessary for Bureau operations.
Thank you, Madam President. We're a little bit past the lunch hour, so we're going to try to be very economical in our final presentations. Eli, could you just please do your presentation and answer council questions? Eli Callison is the property manager of the Bureau of Environmental Services.
Thank you. As Mr. Fish said, I'm property manager for the Bureau of Environmental Services. This ordinance will allow environmental services to continue a lease. Environmental services currently has 2 spaces downtown, Portland building offices where our staff have been relocated to the 400 building, and then Pioneer Tower where about 95 staff that did not fit in the Portland building are located at. Our current lease at Pioneer Tower expires November 30th, 2019, so that's next month. After that expiration, if we don't have the ability to sign a new lease, we go into holdover, at which point our rate will pretty much double for our monthly cost. Over the course of the last year, BES has been working with a broker. We visited 8 buildings downtown. Of those buildings, we requested bids from 5 and received offers from 4. Of the 4 offers, we found Pioneer Tower to be the most economically feasible for the Bureau over the course of the 5-year lease. Sorry, I condensed everything quite quickly. I apologize. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Great. Questions, colleagues? Commissioner Honesty.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you so much for being very responsive to the questions that I've been giving you all week long. I think my question is probably just for the record, because I think there's a broader city conversation about how many buildings does the city of Portland actually own? How much rental space are we actually taking up? And is there a better approach other than us just leasing from the private market? I'm not gonna put you on the spot to try to answer those questions. I think that's a top-line conversation to be had. But for me, I am concerned that we have all these pocket contracts with private companies, and I don't see a big picture about how are we doing space management as the city. So again, not a question that I expect you to be able to answer, but I feel better because I said it out loud, rather than just in my head. Thank you.
Commissioner, can I also just make a comment? I think this predates your service. When we did some of the original planning over the Portland building, and we actually did a comprehensive look at space, and with specifically the goal that you've enumerated, which is to shrink our footprint in the private sector and maximize our use of public space. I think now that the Portland building is nearing completion, I would welcome and I would join with you in asking the CAO to give us an update on space and see how we're doing. Because I think it's a very important conversation and we should be maximizing the use of public space. And I concur with you wholeheartedly.
Thank you. Did anybody sign up for this?
I believe they both left, Charles and Maggie.
Right. This is an emergency ordinance. Please call on.
David? Fish?
Well, Eli, thank you very much. We had a team of 10 answering questions from Commissioner Hardesty's office this week. They haven't slept or bathed since then, but we appreciate the thoughtful questions and the give and take. And as I said earlier, I join with my friend and colleague in this larger question of maximizing our space utilization. So I think it's a very good point. And on that note, I'll vote aye.
Hardesty.
Aye. Fritz. Thank you for your work and for explaining very quickly how we went through a process to get to this. Aye. The ordinance is adopted. 991, please.
Amend Public Improvements Code to make requesting and participating in Bureau of Environmental Services administrative reviews more customer friendly.
Commissioner Fish.
Thank you, Madam President. Colleagues, the proposed code changes before you will make the Bureau of Environmental Services administrative review more user-friendly and add greater transparency. Who can argue with that? Here to